Let's do a meditation on softening the concrete view. Trying to, anyway. Don't have any expectations, but just let's see what can happen. So, make yourselves comfortable. Try to sit up straight, but in a relaxed way, still letting your neck and shoulders be relaxed. If you're feeling sleepy and there's some possibility you start falling asleep during the meditation, you can keep your eyes open a little bit so there's some light coming in, and that can help you to stay awake and alert. So relax as much as possible and clear your mind of thoughts that are not related to what we're doing here. Put them aside and do your best to just stay focused, concentrated on what we're doing right here, right now. So now bring to mind an object towards which you feel aversion or dislike, irritation. It could be a person, it could be someone you know, or a public figure. You could also choose some inanimate object that you dislike. But probably most of the time our aversion is towards other people or other beings. So bring to mind one such person or being or object. And try to have a mental picture of that object. And when you look at this object in your mind, try to see if the object appears to be really bad or irritating, unlikable from its own side, over there, rather than just the way your mind sees the object. So just try to see if it seems in a very concrete, real way to be really irritating, really annoying, really bad, or whatever it is, whatever words you would use to describe the object. Does it seem to exist that way from its own side, as opposed to just what your mind, how your mind sees it, what your mind calls it, labels it? Does it seem as if you just can't help but feel the way you do? Because the object is just so bad, so awful from its own side. So this is what Lama Yeshe calls concrete view. Seeing an object in a very real, concrete way, existing from its own side as this or that, good or bad. And so this way of seeing things is opposite to the wisdom of emptiness. So one way we can work on this and get closer to an understanding of emptiness is to think about dependence or interdependence, how things exist dependent on other things. They don't stand by themselves independently, autonomously, but dependent on other things. So one way things are dependent is on causes and conditions. So think about this with regard to your object. How did it come into existence? If it was a person, then that person was brought into existence by their parents, their mother and father, especially their mother. This person started off as a tiny, microscopic fertilized egg in their mother's womb. And from there grew into a fetus, and then a baby was born, a cute little baby drinking milk from his or her mother and so on. So just think about the causes and conditions that brought this object into existence. And then all along the time, the duration that this object has existed, it's continued to depend on causes and conditions. So for example, if it's a person, for that person to continue to exist, they need food, they need water, they need shelter, they need air to breathe. So without those causes and conditions, this person wouldn't continue to exist. So they are not independently existing. They exist dependently. And it's also helpful to think about impermanence, how they're changing every moment, both the physical part of the person, the mental part, the mind, thoughts, feelings, emotions. So these are changing all the time. They're not the same from one moment to the next. And there's no certainty how long this person or object will continue to exist before causes and conditions change such that it goes out of existence. It's no longer able to continue existing. And then another way that the object is dependent is on parts. So whatever there is, whatever exists, is made up of parts. And it depends on those parts, because without the parts, it wouldn't be there. So for example, if it's a person, they're made up of body and mind. Body in turn is made of parts: skin, blood, bones, organs, cells, molecules, atoms, subatomic particles, and so on. So try to get a sense that if all those parts of the body were not there, the person wouldn't be there. And the mind of the person is also made of parts. It's changing every moment. There are different thoughts or feelings, emotions, ideas, perceptions, arising and passing, arising and passing. Changing every moment, not the same from one moment to the next. And again, without that mind, with all its momentary experiences, the person wouldn't be there. The person wouldn't exist. They're dependent on all those parts. And then a third way that things are dependent is on the mind and the process of naming or labeling things. This is more subtle, more difficult to understand. But we could think in terms of the person's name. So it may seem as if that person is who they are, the name they have from their own side. But the name is just something that was given by the parents. The person didn't come out of the womb with a sign around their neck saying, I am so-and-so. But it was just the parents deciding on a certain name that they liked, and then they gave that name to the person. And the person came to be known by that name. That's not who they are from their own side. And it's similar with roles or responsibilities that the person may have, titles that they may have. Those two are just labels that are dependent on various factors, causes and conditions. If the person is in a political office, for example, they have the title senator or president or prime minister or judge. That is dependent on other factors. They had to study, or they had to be elected by people. So there were other people who gave them that title, that role, that job. It's not who they are, how they are, from their own side, independently. So imagine if we were to strip away all of these different factors, causes, conditions, all the different parts a person is made of, all the different names or labels, terms, titles given to the person, and what is left? Is there a real person, a real bad, horrible, unlikable, disturbing person over there, existing on their own, from their own side? So emptiness doesn't mean there is no person at all, that the person doesn't exist at all. They do exist, conventionally or relatively. There is a body made of cells, molecules, atoms, changing every moment. There's also a mind full of thoughts and different experiences, changing every moment. And there are names or labels that are given by the parents or by, other authorities. So those things do exist. There is a person there who fulfills those roles, performs those functions, and so on. But they just don't exist inherently, independently, concretely from their own side. Instead, the person is just labeled, what is merely labeled by the mind, by conception, on top of the body and mind and all those other factors. That's how the person exists conventionally, relatively. So just check to see if after thinking about these things, if there's any change in your mind, in the way that you see the person or view the person, feel about the person. It still seems so real and concrete over there from its own side. Does it seem softer, lighter, more transparent, more flexible? And then when you feel ready to come out of the meditation, you can open your eyes, relax.